Okay, let's try this again. Let's bloody try this again. Boom, bam, bop. So yeah, I just had some technical difficulties. Seems to be the theme the past 3 videos, but that's fine. You live and you learn, and apparently I'm living and learning a lot, so I'm just gonna check to see if I'm actually live, and if everything's running smoothly, then I'll get into the video. My Facebook doesn't seem to be connecting, but that's alright. If it doesn't connect within 10 seconds, we are going to move on. But it says it's connected, so Facebook's just bullshitting. Wonder what happens if I refresh this page. Oh, there we go. See? I knew it. Facebook is bullshitting. Anyways, who cares about Facebook anyway? Facebook's just bullshitting. So we have 93 seconds ago. At least the volume's working. If I refresh this page. The video is working. I look so over it in the video. I'm not even that over it, guys. I'm just a very expressive person. Okay. Let's get straight into it. As you can tell from the title, we are back for another ep of Lessons and Law. If you haven't been here before, Lessons and Law is a little thing that I made up. Well, I didn't make it up because, it's kind of a basic idea. Basically, I'm going through the lessons and the law that I've accumulated along my journey and experiences in life. So, if you like learning about life, definitely stay tuned and watch for the video because I'll be going into many different aspects, but I go by the number of the video. So we got number 4 today. So it's going to be based on the mind. It's going to be based around the mind, although I find ways to connect things that normally might not necessarily connect. So I'll pretty much be talking about whatever I think that relates to the topic. Last episode we were talking about the environment, which was number 3, because the 3 is the environment. Okay, when you have one person and another person, you guys are interacting and relating. That's what 2 is. And then we have the third aspect of that, which is the environment that you two are in, relating within, because you can't interact or relate with someone without being in a space and an environment first. So when it comes to number 4, this is after number 3. So this is going to be based on when you are separating from that environment and now you're able to see that environment from the outside looking in, because you've already been in the environment, you've already related to that other person, and you've already had your individual self, aka the number 1. And so now you're able to understand yourself as an individual, you're able to understand how you relate to others, and then you're able to understand the space as well, looking at from the outside looking in, aka number 4. Okay, so this is why it's related to the mind as well, because when you are thinking about what you have just experienced within the environment, that is you utilizing your mind. Okay, so now you are no longer in the environment, but you are in your own environment, which is technically outside of the environment that you were just in. However, that mind itself that you were in can also be part of a greater environment. So that's where we get into number 6, which is after number 5, but right now we're on number 4. So let's focus on number 4. So number 4, we're talking about the mind, okay? So we're talking about foresight, okay? This is why I did the cross in my thumbnail, because the cross is 4 points, right? And then I also did the 4 elements: water, fire, earth, and air. And then I also did the spaceship. The spaceship is a representation of your mind, because your mind is able to travel to many different spaces. It's able to fly, you know. Spaceship is actually based off of Dollar to Pilot Man on YouTube. So shout out to him for coining that whole term of spaceship being the mind. Because, you know, you got to give credit where credit is due, guys. Don't be walking around stealing people's ideas and acting like it's your own, okay? Because that's what ends up in you looking like you're trying to be something that you're not actually, you know, or you're trying to portray a false image. And I'm not about false images. I'm not about that bullshit. I'm about being real. What is in the environment? What is in the space? And what are we able to observe from that environment and that space? Okay, and that is getting into the mind. Okay, so when you are looking from the outside looking in, you are able to understand all different aspects and areas of the environment and the space, and what relates within that environment, and also how one individual could be experiencing that environment bar relating, or the environment itself. That individual is within its own internal environment as well, which is another aspect of the mind. But because they maybe don't fully understand what they're relating to or what they're within, they're not able to understand the full circumference of something, like someone like you maybe, who's tapping into that energy of number 4, because you're able to see all different sides of that environment. And so this is what gives you the ability to be able to teach someone or grant someone knowledge, because you are on the outside looking in and you've already experienced that environment, that space, okay? And that starts to become a comfortability for you. And that's when we get into astrology, where astrology is the 4th house, and it also represents home and family and comfortability, right? So this is why it talks about that kind of energy as well, because they're basing it off numerology, or the concept of 4 itself, which I was just breaking down. So now you start to get comfortable with that experience, and you're able to act as though that is almost a home to you, you know, and you're creating your own home, and you're able to be a mother, aka 4th house energy, of that energy, of that space, of that experience, of that environment, which is pretty true to form when it comes to this whole series that I'm talking about. Because in this series, I'm talking about what are my experiences, you know, what's the environment and the space that I've been in, how have I related, how have my individual self related to each thing within that environment and space, right? So, yeah, that's about it when it comes to breaking down the whole series and the introduction to the series for anybody who's maybe new here, or if you're not new here, just get a basic idea and a kind of recap, you know. So that's, again, that's that 4 energy, because it's using my knowledge and my wisdom to be able to reflect and look back at what I have done over the series, you know. So I'm utilizing my mind now and jumping on the outside looking in, and I'm taking you guys there too, you know, by even talking about that, taking you guys to the number 4. So even if you weren't here before, you know, you're able to understand everything that happened before. And this gives you kind of that 4 energy in itself. So now that we've got that out of the way, you've got foresight. So now you're able to understand a basic idea of what I'm going to talk about within this video in itself. And this is what gives you the ability to be able to see how a situation might play out, and how it might have a downfall or whatever, based on you already being through that experience or reflecting on that experience based off of somebody else. Maybe you've gained that wisdom and knowledge because somebody else has shown you that. Somebody else has taken their time out of their day, or you've just observed it for yourself. You've seen it from the outside looking in, and now you're able to relate to that, number two, and you're able to be like, okay, cool. Now I see the ins and outs of this environment. Even though I might not have experienced that environment myself, I'm able to have a greater awareness, a greater mind state about that environment. My nose is so itchy right now. Like, what is up with that? So, as you can tell, we in that number four. Okay, so when you have that foresight, that ability to have foresight, then that's how you know in whatever aspect of or area or environment you might have foresight in. That's how you can tell what you might have had more experiences in, what you might have been able to relate to more within, or what you've just expanded out of when it comes to you being in that space first. But now you're on the outside looking in, and you're able to tell others what the ins and outs of that situation are too. So, reflecting back on experiences is really the name of the game when it comes to these lessons in law that I'm about to get into. But that's a little preface, so we've already gotten into it really. So when I say get into, or I really mean further explain. So also we got the diamond here, that's another four energy. So when you're able to separate and see the four sides, the four corners, this is why they always talk about like the four corners of the earth. The earth is the environment, and then the four corners is you being able to see there's that corner, there's that corner, there's that corner, and there's that corner. And now you're able to have more wisdom and knowledge on that other than somebody else who doesn't even know what the four sides may be. And so they're not able to develop systems like you have, aka develop a compass with north, east, south, and west, all the four elements, understanding the different aspects and areas and what you can utilize them for, how you can mix and match those things and create kind of alchemy, and then bring something new into the world. Because you're not in the world, you're just on the outside looking in at this point. You're utilizing your mind for a greater purpose. So, there's a few things that I really wanted to get into when it comes to the number four in itself. But the first thing that comes to my head as well is just being able to see my own experiences in life and how those have benefited me and how those have been an actual detriment to me. So when it comes to like one thing that's been coming to my mind lately a lot, it always does though, is how my sexuality, not being a part of the straight sexual orientation has been definitely something where I can see the blessings and the curses from it, and this could apply to any different area, but being able to experience that, a lot of people may see that as a downfall. So I'm able to see that from the outside in. A lot of people may judge that and be like, wow, either poor you or you're going to hell, or whatever the case may be, whatever area of life you're in, or maybe you're just like more unbiased and you don't really think about it too much. You're just like, oh, that's just, that person just likes dick, that person just likes pussy, like whatever it may be. You will be able to have some kind of thought, concept, idea, number four, mind state about that specific thing. But for me, I'm able, because I've experienced it myself, I've experienced being gay, so I know the ins and the outs, I know the downfalls and the positives, and so it grants me that ability to be able to see it from the outside looking in, as opposed to some other people who may just only see it from one side. They're only seeing it from that number one aspect. They're not seeing it from the number two or the number three or the number four. So then they're just lost into their own world, and they're not able to see how that may be harsh for someone, or it may actually be positive or beneficial for someone. Because for me, I noticed a lot of bullets that I dodged, and this is not saying that either one is positive or negative, but I've noticed a lot of bullets that I've dodged in life just from being part of this sexual orientation, right? Where a lot of people had to go through a lot of relationships and experiences. I didn't really necessarily have to go through those because, one, there's a less pool to choose from, obviously. There's not necessarily like as many fish in the sea when it comes to this kind of ocean that I'm swimming in. So there's a downfall to that, obviously. You may not have as many options per se, although that's arguable. That's subjective. And also, you also just may have the positives or what is it called? Anyways, positive is the only word I can think of. You may just see the positives, or I may see the positives and be like, well, that actually saved me from having to go through a lot of negative experiences that I've seen a lot of straight people go through. And therefore, I'm able to not only learn from a lot of people who are straight and see their experiences and be like, that's definitely not something I would even think of going through. And then also, I'm able to know what I do want and what I don't want just based on their experiences. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. And I always see the blessing and the curse in everything. So this is what grants me the ability to be able to see a situation in other ways that many other people might not be able to see, because I'm looking at it from the outside looking in again. And I'm going to stop repeating that because I think I've repeated that like freaking 6 or 7 times, maybe 8 times. You get the concept, you get the idea. So, seeing myself as well, growing up, going to church, and no offense to anyone who goes to church, I can see why that benefits some people in their life, but for me, it actually held me back a lot of the time. And so, for me, it represented a lot of guilt and a lot of shame and a lot of like self punishment when it came to how I viewed myself, with the whole concept of sin and everything like that. It actually held me back from being my truest self in some ways. And in other ways, it helped me to, discover myself too. But that's where I'm able to see both sides of the coin, the blessing and the curse. So, yeah, it was upsetting for me actually finding out, growing up in a religious family, right? And then finding out that I was a homo. And then also it was a blessing in disguise. So my belief now is more that, if you want to believe in God, because I don't necessarily believe in the Christian God, but I believe in God. But I don't like to use that term because that is a man-made term. And I don't necessarily think that thing or that you can't even call it a concept or a thing, but that energy or essence or parameter, all possibilities, that I don't think that should have a word to it, a man-made word to it, because that's when you start to get kind of lost into concepts and ideas of putting like man-made ways of being onto that. And then things start to get a little bit weird for me, at least. I ain't trying to make anyone or convince anyone of anything. So if you're religious and you want to sit there and if you want to argue, that's your prerogative. I mean, I'm open to discussions. I'm open to debates as well. But this is not necessarily the video that I really want to be doing that in. I'm just trying to talk about my experiences, my foresight, and my reflection on how these experiences have actually helped me, and seeing my environment from the outside looking in. So when I found out that, I was like, okay, yeah. Now I see it more as, okay, all possibilities, God, whatever term you want to put it to, for lack of a better word, has actually blessed me with this. And a lot of people may think, oh, blasphemy, that's so evil. But you don't know my experiences, you don't know my life and how I've grown, and you don't know how much blessings I've actually experienced. You can only see it from your own individual perspective. And you may think I'm living a holistic lifestyle because of that. But in actuality, I see it as such a blessing because it's helped me to gain experiences and wisdom and knowledge that a lot of people are not privy to, are not aware of. And yeah, you can say, oh, well, you know, I've learned about a lot of the stuff you've learned about, and I didn't have to be gay. But I would argue that you haven't. You actually haven't. Because I know I've met a lot of people in my life. Don't get me wrong. There's good people and bad people everywhere. But I've met a lot of gay people in my life who actually are a lot more wiser and a lot more experienced and knowledgeable in life than a lot of other people I've met who aren't. And that's not to say it's one or the other is better, you know, but I'm just trying to drive my point home that I see it more as a blessing. I see it more as something that's actually helped me, and not necessarily saying it's a good thing either. Like, I'm not saying that it's a good thing either. I just take the blessings out of everything, out of every single situation. Because if not, then I'm just going to sit there and think to myself, oh, woe is me, my life is shit, and blah, 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 you know? And why would I be in that state of being when I can choose to see the positives out of it? You know, that's just stupidity at that point for me. So that's giving me the ability to have that foresight too, that foreknowledge. So now I'm able to know, okay, yeah, it may not necessarily be a good or a bad thing, because, you know, there's also a lot of prejudice and a lot of stigma and negativity and alienation that comes from being gay. But you can also see how there's a lot of beauty and a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom that comes from it, you know, and a lot of acceptance and a lot of love. I'm sure you guys have known this too. You probably met a lot of gay people in your life who are some of the most accepting and loving and appreciative people that you've ever met in your life. And I'm sure even if you've gone to church, you've met a lot of people who have gone to church who can be some of the most judgmental and rude and demeaning kind of people, you know, and not saying everybody at church is like this. Like I said, it's good and bad and everywhere. So when you're watching my channel, if you haven't been here before, you always have to look at it from an equilibrium. I'm just bringing the point home and showing you that four energy. I'm looking at it from the outside looking in. I'm not looking at it from inside the space. So where a lot of people are inside the environment, then in that number 3, right? So they'll hear some of the stuff I say and they'll be like, oh, well, he said that people at church can be rude. So that means that he thinks that Christians are bad people. Bitch, where? Bitch, where? How the fuck is my water already gone? This cup is too small, guys. I'm gonna go get a drink of water. Hold on. Bro. When my jacket gets caught in the door. See ya! Yeah. That just reminded me of the title. I just remembered. I fully named the title The Moind. Because I felt like it, guys. I felt like it. Normally I'll write it normally. But today the accent came through. The Aussie accent. So I was like, The Moind. You know, lessons in law, The Moind. So I wanted to put the accent there so you can sort of get an idea about, no jokes, that's like the textbook movie Australian accent, or there are people in Australia that do speak like that, but a lot of people in Australia don't speak like that. A lot of people in Melbourne don't even speak like me, but I'm also not born here, so it's a different vibe going on. It's a different vibe going on. So, how can you see both sides and all three sides, all three aspects of your experiences, and develop some form of comfortability or safe haven or home out of that, for you to be able to feel comfortable in your own space, for you to be able to feel at home. And if you can't, then you're not fully tapping into that four energy as much as you could be. So, trying to find where I was just before I went to go get that glass of water. So yeah, without being gay or discovering about my sexuality or whatever the heck, I don't even I don't even like that term gay, honestly, because first of all, gay, I don't know about other parts of the world, but here in Australia and New Zealand, gay is used to describe something that is stupid or dumb or dull, or like it's like a synonym for something that's just like well, that's gay, like that's how people say it. So it's like maybe might show them a video, you might show someone a video, right, and then that video is like really stupid, and so people will be like, that's gay. So that's why I don't necessarily like that term gay. And then there's also a few other reasons on why. But for lack of a better term right now, I don't want to get into freaking, what is it called? Semantics, I think is the word. When you're arguing, I think that's what the word is. Semantics. Let me search it up. Because I like to know what I'm talking about when it comes to words. I don't like to say shit and then not know. Yeah, so semantics is the study of meaning in language, including how words, phrases, and sentences convey meaning. Yeah, so I guess that was the right word to use, semantics. So, without me knowing about my sexuality, without me finding out about that, I wouldn't have actually been able to. Oh, see, I can't even say that for sure, because I know myself, and I know my mind, and my mind definitely questions things and delves deep into things, because I've got an 8th house moon too, Sagittarius at that. So when it comes to Sagittarius is all about learning. So when it's in the 8th house is like deep occult type of stuff. So in some way, shape or form, my spirit, my soul, my mind would have led me to learning more about occult or wisdom, and I don't want people to hear this and be like, oh my gosh, he said occult. Occult is just hidden knowledge, so anything you do behind closed doors. So don't get lost into indoctrination and think that when I say occult, I'm talking about like a cult, first of all, because it has cult in it, or that I'm talking about like witchcraft or anything like that, although it does include that. No, when I'm talking about a cult is just like things that happen behind closed doors, or things that are unknown to the general population. So anything that happens within the dark, aka me right now making this video, I'm doing it in my home, right? So that's a form of a cult. Or, well, arguably it's not, because I'm not really in my home, I'm on the internet. So that was a little bit of a bad example, but you get the concept. You, right now, you're sitting in your room and you're watching this video. That is a form of a cult. So don't get lost and think a cult means something bad. A cult just encompasses all things that happen behind closed doors. And that can include witchcraft, that can include spirituality and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean that specifically. So don't get lost into indoctrination when you're watching my videos. Again, always see it from an equilibrium perspective, because I don't talk about shit from the mainstream woo-woo spiritual type of way. That's not the way that I'm talking about it. There's half the reason why I even come on here, because half the people in the world are lost into indoctrination and think about shit like that, and they just get lost into one stream of concepts, and then they're like, oh my gosh, that's so bad, that's negative, that's evil, when we know that things aren't always black and white like that in life. There's two sides to every story, like people say. There's two sides to a coin. There's many different ways to look at something. Whatever way you want to explain it, whatever tickles your fancy, you get the concept, you get the idea. You see what I'm talking about, babes. So oh, that was a record, guys. That was a record. Normally it happens 10 to 15 minutes within, or 10 to 12 minutes in the video I start yawning. That time it happened half an hour into the video. So that was a world record. Hopefully next video I don't yawn at all. I'll just yawn after the video. So that'll be cool. Anyways, who gives a shit? It's just a yawn, but I just thought it was kind of funny. I just thought it was kind of funny how it happens like every single time. At least it changed this time. And you know that I'm transforming. You know that I'm evolving. You know that I'm growing. I'm not just staying the same. So that's granting you the ability to know that I'm not like a stagnant bitch. Even though I've got a Taurus sun. So, Taurus is a fixed sign. And Earth at that. So Earth in general was fixated. So when it comes to Taurus and Earth, like, bitch, I could get stuck into ways, and if you've got Taurus in your chart, you can get stuck into some ways too. But I'm lucky that I have that Sagittarius moon to kind of help me to shift that energy, and I also have an Aries rising to help me initiate something new into the world, as opposed to someone, if you got like Earth sun, Earth moon, Earth rising, I hear you, because you could get definitely stuck and fixated into your ways quite easily. Or even if you have like a combination of Earth and fixed in your sun, moon, and rising, any element, just Earth and fixed, you could definitely struggle with changing and getting out of cycles and getting out of shit in your life. So kudos to you if you're able to do that, because it's definitely a bit more of a challenge to you than someone else, but it's never an excuse. Doesn't matter what experiences or what you've been through in your life. At the end of the day, you have the choice to be able to make a difference in your life. Regardless of how hard it is, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. Something may be hard for you, may be easy for me, but also vice versa. What's easy for me may be hard for you. What's hard for me may be easy for you. So it kind of becomes negligible at that point, when you really look at it from that aspect. And that's seeing it from the outside again, being able to understand that. So again, when it comes to that 4-2 with the cross as well, that's like a representation of how when they crucified Jesus, right, in the Bible story, they wanted to get rid of that energy. They wanted to eliminate that energy and separate that energy from the world, from the environment, right? So they used the cross as a representation of kind of separating and bringing that Jesus energy from the outside looking in. So now, no longer in the story, no longer did people experience him being within their environment. They experienced him separating from that environment and rising above to heaven. And then that's also why he rose after the third day, because it represents again that number four. So he's representing kind of that number four energy in that story a little bit, being rising after the third day. He represents kind of the fourth aspect of that and being able to rise above and see something from the outside looking in. And so he's no longer a victim of his circumstance. He's a phoenix, phoenix out of the ashes type energy. That might even be why they invented or made the word phoenix start with an F, or didn't start with an F, sorry, but the sound, the phonetics. So, me, myself, I was going to say before that, without me being gay, I might not have learned about this stuff. But then I went through that whole thing about, no, well, actually, I got a 8th house moon. So I really would have learned about all this stuff in general, regardless of what aspect or area I attacked it or entered it from. But having my sexuality there was kind of like a way of my spirit to remind myself to fast track my ability to be able to get out of whatever I was in, separate from that, and be able to see it from the outside looking in. Because a lot of people get lost into relationships. They get lost into the environment that they're in. They get lost into their individuality, aka their ego. And so then that restricts them from being able to jump into that four energy, from being able to develop their own mind. And don't get me wrong, I grew up in a lot of ways I wasn't able to think for myself. In other ways I was able to think for myself. So I got to experience both sides, relate to both sides of that environment, and then see it from the outside looking in, which is why I can stand up here and talk about this stuff and be able to tell you the ins and outs, because you can't talk about something unless you have wisdom and knowledge and you've grown through that and experienced it. So if you're not able to talk about something to the depth or to the ability that I'm able to talk about it, then you've still got some more experiences that you might need to go through in order to be able to do that. And that's not to say you should be up here on this video talking about it, but just you'll be able to explain it in your own individual way. And so you'd be able to resonate with a lot of the things that I'm saying, but from your own aspect in your own area. And that shows you that you'd be in a similar space, or that I'd be in a similar space to be able to develop these kind of mind states and these concepts. So being able to separate from it at such a young age, I fast-tracked my ability to be able to separate from the space, to separate from what I was relating to. Because, having a certain sexuality that's not as common is not necessarily a lot of people you can relate to. So you have to learn how to relate to yourself. There's not necessarily an ego that you can always have, because a lot of people may shoot down your ego or whatever. Not saying that people did mine, but because at the end of the day, I didn't give two shits. If people wanted to mock me for being gay, like I'd just find a reason to mock them. I used to call people faggots. Like I'll be like, "You're a freaking faggot," and then I would drive the point home. I would even say to them, "Yeah, and you know what? You think that's funny because I'm calling you a faggot and I'm gay, but that's what makes it hurt even more, because I know what it is to be a faggot. I've experienced it. So for a gay person to call you a faggot, you're a fucking faggot." That's what I used to say. That's what I used to say to people. That was a bit funny. But I was real crafty and intelligent with my ways of doing shit. But that was when I was in my teens. I had that real good foresight, that real good foreknowledge. And then once I got out of my teens, I started to get lost a little bit into the world, into the environment. So I jumped out of that four. I jumped back into the environment. And then I started to want to relate and, be an individual and blah, blah, blah. But, not realizing I already was like that. I just thought that I wasn't for some reason. And that's, if you've been lost into the world, I feel like anybody can agree or attest to having some form of lostness when it comes to this world. Otherwise, I don't, I don't necessarily think you would have experienced or exist in this world if you haven't experienced some form of lostness. Whether that's on a large scale or a small scale, this world is like full of lostness, period. So it doesn't matter what walk of life you came from. It doesn't matter if you were perfectly aligned and perfectly stacked to the nines. There was some degree of lostness that you must have experienced in order for you to even exist in this world. At least that's my thoughts. If you don't think so, I'd love to hear your opinion too. That'd be cool. Because I'm all about learning and growing, expanding the awareness, expanding our minds. So if you can come in with your little 4 energy, and then I'll be able to be like, oh, you might be able to change my mind. You might be able to change my mind. But I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that'll be the case in this scenario with what I was just talking about. Maybe with another thing that I'm talking about. But that specific topic, I think I really, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? This little freaking thing, this gap here is kind of annoying, but whatever. She said, she's serving. No jokes, what the fuck? So, you talk about your sexuality a lot and then you start acting like a homo. I mean, not saying that I wasn't acting like a homo before, but I summoned that energy, I summoned that energy within me. I freaking summoned that energy real quick. Get away from me, homo. I'm my own homo, I don't need another homo energy to come in, like, make me act some kind of way, like, go left, right, left. Bitch, I'm just gonna stay in the center, okay? So, let me think of anything else. With the number 4, with that moind, mate. So yeah, as well, like that's that reflection energy that I was just going through. I used, not only did I tell you about my own experience, my own mind state, right? So I jumped into that 4 energy. I'm like a live example of what the 4 is. And then I also reflected on that, I was reflecting on my mind states, reflecting on my past experiences, showing you guys the 4 energy in like literally live example, so again, that I literally, when you think something and then like it's at the tip of your tongue, and then the moment you go to utter those words, it's like, wait, what? Wait, where did it go? So let me go back. Let me go. Go back. Let me go. No, I can't do it on the buy. Okay, so I'm just gonna rewind on the video because I really wanted to say that point. And I don't want to forget it. I don't really want to move on to anything else until I've got it. 4 energy, and then I'll be able to be like, oh, you might be able to change my mind. You might be able to change my mind. But that specific topic, I think I'm gonna what? Scenario, like, expanding our minds. So if you yeah. So yeah, there was a certain point in my life where I did get lost into the world. I did get lost into those kind of concepts. And then like I said before, I didn't necessarily have my own way of thinking or my own mind. But that was my ability of being able to kind of learn the ins and outs of that. Because before I had more of a mind, I did think for myself, but I didn't know how much I was thinking for myself. I didn't fully understand or understand the ins and outs of thinking for myself, having my own mind state, having my own individuality and relating that to the environment, and then being able to reflect on that and see it from the outside looking in. So I had to go through some experiences. My spirit wanted me to go through those experiences for me to be able to be like, okay, now I know what it means to have a mind and to not have a mind, to think for myself and to not be able to think for myself, and to just be like kind of like a sheep, you know. So instead of you being the number 4, you're now controlled by the number 4 energy, aka instead of you thinking for yourself, you're now just going by other people's thoughts and concepts. You're now just going by other people's ways of reflecting and looking at reality. And this is where a lot of people are lost. So a lot of people in the world, they haven't even got past the number 4. They haven't even got to the number 4. A lot of people in the world are just stuck in 1, 2, and 3. AKA, this is why a lot of people say we're in the 3rd dimension, but there's 9 dimensions. So people can expand and go a lot further than they actually are able, or they actually think that they are able to. But a lot of people are just indoctrinated under other people's mind states, other people's ways of thinking. And so they're not able to think outside of the box, you know? They're not able to think outside of the 4. This is why a box has 4 sides. You know, the 4 represents the ability to be able to overstand the 4 sides of it, the 4 corners of the earth, like I was saying at the start, and then being able to develop their own perspective, their own way of feeling and reacting to that box, you know. And so this is where that out of the box kind of energy even comes from. These concepts and these energies. A lot of people might think that that's pseudo, but at the same time, you'll know that what I'm saying makes a lot of sense too. So you'd probably be like, kind of confused, like, hold on, like this guy sounds like he's talking shit, but then all the shit that he's talking makes so much sense. So I'm not sure what to really think about the situation right now. And so this is, again, a testament to that 4 energy. You may be still more lost into the number 1, the number 2, or the number 3. So this is not granting you the ability to be able to understand how I'm coming to the conclusion that I'm coming to, but you'll still be able to know that a lot of it makes sense because I've overstood that energy of making sense in itself. I'm able to look at it from the outside looking in, and I'm able to ground that energy because I'm able to utilize both, whereas you might only be looking at it from one aspect. So you're not able to see how I'm utilizing both, but you know that I'm utilizing something that you might not necessarily be able to utilize. Or you know that I'm utilizing something, but you also don't know what that something might be. So this is where a lot of people get lost into, and they'll just be like self-reflecting. So they'll just think to themselves about when it comes to the way the world is and the way they see the world, or the way they're indoctrinated to see the world. I hate when it's like, you know, when it's like just right temperature. It's like just that temperature where if you wear a jacket, it's like too warm. But if you like take it off, it's like too cold. And then like, you don't really want to grab that jacket that's like thinner, you know? So I just like half put on the jacket, half take it off. Cause like, bish, I don't want to do that. Not that it's that much work. It ain't even much work. It's not work at all. I just don't want to do it, you know? So I'm just going to sit here with my jacket half on, half off. Plus, I like this jacket better. She's slay. Anywho. Hee ha ha. So, to round the video off, a lot of people are lost into their individuality. They're lost into their ego. So they're not able to see or relate to others, you know. So this is why you may have a lot of arguments. You may have a lot of disputes. And then a lot of people are lost into relating. So they're not really able to understand the environment that they're in. So they're just lost into connecting to the things within the environment, but you're not ever able to duplicate or utilize the environment to its fullest extent. And then you may just chalk it up to you not being skilled, or you just don't have that talent, or whatever it may be. But really, you're just probably lost into relating to the things within the environment, and then you're not able to actually develop a sufficient environment yourself. Ugh. Or you may just be lost into your feelings. You may not even be relating. You just may be lost into your feelings and your emotions and the way you feel about things, aka relating. So when push comes to shove, and someone who's more into that 4 energy wants to come and talk to you about maybe the way their perspective might be, or to think outside of the box more, you may just get into your emotions and be more reactionary rather than being open-minded, and thinking outside of the box. So this is where a lot of people, you may think, oh, why is that person? Or ever see it from another person's perspective, or they won't ever see the bigger picture, or they may be lost into the number 2, the second dimension. So they're just only seeing things from 2 sides, the right and the left, the thoughts and the emotions. So they're not able to see how their thoughts and their emotions can create a certain environment for them to be able to even experience those thoughts and emotions in that specific way. Or could go into whole many different areas with that one, Or they may just be lost into the environment, So they may just be lost into like obtaining material, physical things. Or when it comes to being able to see those material, physical things and create something new out of it, or build something, or to develop their own individual concept about that specific thing, they might be at a loss, or just thinking outside the box in general. They'll just be like, oh gosh, yes, my precious, like Gollum in the freaking Lord of the Rings, my precious. So as soon as they get something precious, they just get lost into that precious thing, and they get lost into the light, and they're not ever able to like be outside of that and experience something new, or create something new. They're just like in it, in the thing, in the body. So many different areas, but if you watch this video, I'm sure you can put together the pieces. And if not, I could go into it later on in other videos, but right now I'm just giving the general concept, the general idea of things for you guys to be able to understand it. And on that note, I think we've pretty much summed out the 4 energy. And I hope you know as well that when it comes to my videos as well, it's not just about what I'm talking about. No, it's, how do I explain this? It's not just about the specific things that I'm explaining, but it's also, what am I explaining? How am I explaining it? And those are all point to the energy that I'm actually trying to explain to you guys. So if you have the spiritual eye, if you're able to have that spiritual sixth sense and tap in, then you'll be able to gain so much more wisdom and knowledge from it. So even if you really gained a lot of wisdom, I would encourage you, maybe come back if you feel like it. Maybe come back to this video at a certain point in your life. Maybe it's like 3 months from now, maybe it's 2 weeks from now, whatever it may be. Maybe it's even a few days from now, or maybe it's like a year from now, or maybe it's like 5 years from now, whatever it is. you know. And I can pretty much guarantee you'll probably see not only what you were seeing from the video before, but you actually see a deeper layer to the video that I'm seeing, that I'm saying and explaining, because I'm seeing it myself. So I think that that would be something really important to talk about when it comes to these videos, these episodes. Because one thing nearly dropped me mic. One thing that I have learned just from this video and seen from this video is it's not only about what I'm talking about, it's also, yeah, there's layers to this shit. There's definitely layers to this shit. And that's also partly due to the symbolism, the fact that I even know about the symbolism and the signs and symbols that I'm talking about, that I'm breaking down, but also like the energy and the ritual and the spell that I put into this. And don't get lost into that word again, like, and think, oh my gosh, like he did some kind of curse, like blah blah blah. Like, I'm just talking about the actions and the thoughts and the feelings that I went through before I got into this video, because I know that those are actually the true ritual and spell. So because of how I did the video, that's what kind of plays things out like this. So, you know, I know that I'm a Taurus, so I put in that practical, that planning aspect. Because that's what Earth is about. That's why I do my thumbnails. That's part of my ritual and spell. You know, I'm not really supposed to disclose these things, but just as an example, if anyone wants to learn from this as well, because I know there's other people here that might be watching that, you know, you might be interested in making content or just interested in the deeper layer of this. So that's what grants me this ability. And also just because I'm tapping into that space of all possibilities, or like some people like to say God. And so I'm able to receive those messages from all possibilities in a seamless way. And, you know, you'd be able to see it from the videos that I'm talking about, all the way down to, you might even notice a lot of the videos that I talk about relates to your life and how you've been seeing life. And it might just be recent, you know, so it's like, it might even be like, you might feel like that I'm like doing a reading or something, you know, but I don't like necessarily do readings when it comes to this. That's just that energy that I was talking about, of me tapping into that space of all possibilities. And then couple that with the wisdom and the ritual and the spell that I do before jumping into these videos. This is what you kind of get, you know, that aspect of like, he knows something that I don't know, or like, I don't even know how to explain it in words, but if you are spiritually in tune, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about without me having to really explain it or go into words. But it's like I know what's going on in your mind. It's like I know how to explain like your life, but like that's just like wisdom and knowledge in general. Because I know, you know, at the end of the day, you have a mind just like me. You have a physical body just like me. So how can you be that much different? It's like, you know, and then all the energy work that I put into this shit too. So it's whole, like, you know, I might just post videos every 3 days, but, you know, when it comes to those videos that I post every third day, you can definitely tell the amount of energy work that I put into what I do behind closed doors even. And that all shows when it comes to my videos too. Because I spend so much energy work on my creativity, you know, all types of shit. Just like maintaining my life in general, maintaining my mental health, doing my shadow work, all of this stuff ties in. Everything ties in. Everything's like a balancing act. So you balance this thing with that thing, alternate between this thing and that thing, maybe do a little bit more of that thing and then do a little bit more of this thing, and then like do less of that thing and do more of this thing, like, you know, so it's like that kind of constant balancing act. And then the more you're able to kind of utilize and jump rope between different balancing acts, then you'll kind of get this energy in your own individual way of what I'm talking about and breaking down in these videos, and just how you can see me acting in general and how you can see me being in general. It's all part of the ritual and the spell, baby. So let that be an example to you guys, you know, just so you guys can see beyond the veil. Beyond, I said that with such a fucking Aussie accent. Beyond the veil, you know, see beyond the veil, see behind the scenes into that like feminine, chaotic, dark realm of things, aka the unseen, the occult, the eighth house. So that's a little bit of the occult aspect of it as well. And then that's also me breaking down that four as well again, you know, because I'm seeing not only did I just explain everything about the four, then I jumped out of that four and I looked at it from the outside looking in and explained and reflected on what I just was reflecting on. So that's why I was saying, like, there's layers to the shit, guys. There's layers to the shits. And on that note, I'm getting tired, babes. And I think I've broken it down in the most pristine quality, quantity, quantity, a comedy, commodity, colloquially, whatever word you want to use, whatever way you want to look at it. Wait. And on that note, yeah. On that note, how many times do you want to say it, guys? Peace. Anyways, ka kite ano. Ka kite ano. Whakataka te hau ki te ora. Whakataka te hau ki te runga. Whakataka te hau ki te raro. Whakataka te hau ki te uru. Whakataka te hau ki te waho. Whakataka te hau ki te roto. Whakataka te hau ki te tonga. And then, yeah, every other aspect and every other direction, you know, whakataka te hau ki te east. Whakataka te hau ki te north. Whakataka te hau ki te ora. Just, you know, sending out some good vibes to you guys, sending out some good energy. Kia ora, kia ora. Kia ora is like kia, be well, be good. And whakataka te hau, that's like me, I'm blowing those winds to you guys, you know, blowing the winds of wellness, of health, of life, you know, all the good things, all the positive things, bringing life to that wind, bringing life to that air, so you can take that life, carry it with you into your next experience, your next whatever it is you jump into. So yeah, peace.